Hi, Peter Charles here of Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and today we're going to do the Bibeau Killer. Now, what's interesting about this fly is it has fire tiger colors, which you're going to like. If you do any conventional fishing, you know how effective that color combination can be. So it's interesting to see it in a fly. The other thing we're going to do with this particular pattern is I'm going to go away from the work of art type approach. This is going to be I want to go out fishing and I want a bunch of these flies type of approach, and we're not going to spend too much time being pretty. It's going to be, let's get it out there and get it working. So let's get going and look at the materials. My hook is a Mustad size 2 in a streamer, 3 extra heavy, 7 extra long. My thread is 8/0 Vivus black. My tag is a medium uni mylar in gold silver. I'm going to be using the gold side. Now this is a little different. I'm using a red floss here, but you see I've put it in a bobbin. Now the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to do two passes, and it can be very tough trying to figure out how much floss we need to make 2 passes on a long hook like this. The downside of using floss in a bobbin is you can't get the twist out of it, so it may not lay flat, it may look kind of ropey. But this is a fishing fly, so I'm not too worried about that. I just want a red floss body. For bucktail, we're going to be first putting on red, followed by white, followed by yellow, followed by black. I mean, that's a lot of bucktail. So obviously we're going to have to go rather careful with this to make sure we don't end up with a huge wing that goes all over the place. And finally we finish off with some jungle cock eyes. So let's get started. Now I'm going to leave myself some room here at the front because that's where I'm going to be tying on the bucktail. So there's a lot to go on there, so I'm going to leave myself some room. Now I'm not going to get too fancy about this. This is going to be a little bit quick and dirty. Bring it back to the hook point. Okay, we tie in our rib. Now we work our way back. Now we tie in the floss. Okay, now we're going to lay on 2 passes with the floss. And we are not going to be too terribly worried about being perfect here. It's just get the floss on. Watch out for the hook point. You definitely do not want to nick your floss on the hook point. Just hook 1 pass at the back end, then come forward. So you can see that the body is kind of ropey looking. You know, that's not pretty. That's not a very artsy way to do it. But this is kind of thing that we'll tolerate if we just want to knock out a bunch of flies. Okay, now for the rib. 1 pass at the back, and then come forward. Okay, now we're ready for the bucktail. Use it very sparingly. We've got a lot of colors to put on. I'm not going to stack it. I'm just going to take a few hairs and, as usual, clean out the short stuff. This is especially important on this particular fly. You do not want short stuff anywhere in the pattern. It just fills up a lot of space. And take your time getting rid of unruly ones that are sticking out at weird angles. You know, you're not going to be using a lot of bucktail in here, so take your time. You know, what I'm doing is I'm just going through and picking out the ugly stuff. Especially on this particular one, it's not a very good tail. Okay, bring your thread to the back. Line it up. pinch loop it. Now I'm just going to wrap forward. Now I'm just going to trim this off at an angle. And wrap this down. Okay, bring your thread back. Put a loose wrap at the end to hold things in place. Now for the white, same thing as before. Match the length. Pinch loop it. Now take your time to make sure it's sitting on top properly. Then come forward. Now what we're going to do here, we're not going to go all the way to the end like we did with the red. We're going to stop a little short. Trim that off. Again, the soft loops at the back. Now for the yellow. Pinch loop it. Couple of wraps. Make sure it's sitting square. There we go. Wrap forward. Now stop short. Bring your thread to the back. Now for the black. Pitch loop it. Couple of wraps. Make sure that's even and not square on top. Put a few firm wraps in there. Now come in and trim. I'll put some loose wraps right at the very back. And finally the jungle cock. Now I don't have the fingers to put them in both at the same time, so I'm just going to have to cheat and put them in one at a time. Now to space this out, you can see I put the base of that little white patch at the start of the head. Use little visual guides like that so you can get both your nails in lined up the same. There we go, that's about right. Now I'm going to pinch them in place. Some tight wraps. Now we trim off the stems. And finally some head cement. Okay, there we have the Bibeau killer. That's quite an attractive fly with the fire tiger colors. You notice how my bucktails all blend together? I prefer that. Some people like to delineate them quite sharply, and from an artistic standpoint that looks great. I like mine sort of mixed together so it all looks like blended, and especially when you've got lots of, I won't call them loose, but hairs that are not tightly packed together, they'll move better in the water. So yeah, it's not as pretty as I could do if I wanted to be really, really precise with it, but I think this kind of approach fishes better and you can knock them out an awful lot faster. So there we go, the Bibeau killer. Fire tiger colors, it always works. Give it a try. Cheers.